馬車迎えに来るの迎えに来るのね誰かが私を連れて行くのね白い花の道へ風のふるさとへ連れて行くのね連れて行くのね
There were only a few days left till Christmas. Anne and her friends were practicing hard for the school concert at Avonlea Town Hall.
Blinded am I by the beauty of thy majesty's countenance.
Thy splendour, O Majesty, illuminates the world as the rays of sun bring light unto darkness. Today is the birthday of the Queen of the Fairies. Therefore a feast will be held at the palace.
Therefore a feast will be held at the palace, a feast in honour of our beloved Queen of the Fairies.
A feast in honour of our beloved Queen, the Queen of the Fairies.
What's the matter with you?
Did I do something wrong?
You're supposed to be a fairy. Fairies don't trample around like woodcutters.
Oh, I can't help it. It's these shoes I'm wearing. They actually belong to Ruby. I borrowed them from her, but unfortunately they are 2 sizes too big. That's why they flap like that when I'm walking.
Well, those shoes make you look like a fairy grandmother. You're going to have to try to get younger before the concert so that you can fly.
There's nothing to laugh about. It's serious. We have a crisis on our hands. If I can't do something about these shoes, it might spoil the concert for us.
Oh, so the little miss wants to be in the play, but she doesn't have the right shoes for it.
Take a look at yourself. You're not exactly a typical fairy either. And it has nothing to do with your shoes. Anne, I think I have an idea. But that's a velvet ribbon.
Yes, I know. You can use the ribbon to tie your shoes to your ankles and they'll look like ballet shoes. Who'd know?
Thank you, Diana. You've just saved my life.
And you could try stuffing the shoes with something like a handkerchief, perhaps.
Well, there's no harm in trying. With a bit of luck, it might just work.
Oh, that's disgusting. You don't put handkerchiefs in shoes. It's not ladylike.
I'm afraid I can't let that stop me. I would even eat soup with a dirty apron floating in it if I thought it would help our play in some or other way.
My mother I'd be home no later than 5. I'd better hurry up. Well, go then.
Anne, hurry up now. We have to go.
Is that better now? I can walk much better like this. Today is the birthday of the Queen of the Fairies. Therefore a feast will be held at the palace, a feast in her honour. Look, I'm not trampling anymore, I'm flying.
The ribbon looks
It
so
looks
pretty.
stupid with only one fairy wearing ribbons.
As Matthew was watching Anne and her friends, he noticed how different from the other little girls Anne looked. And he tried to decide why. Was it her eyes? Anne had bigger, livelier eyes that shone more than the others. And, of course, she had red hair. But that wasn't what was bothering Matthew, as he found her very pretty. There was something else that wasn't quite right. What it was, Matthew wanted to find out.
Matthew, are you home already? What are you doing there? Why are you sitting on the floor?
Nothing really. I'm just resting. It's very comfortable like this.
And is it especially comfortable to wear only one boot?
What? Which boot? Oh, you mean my boot. It's of no importance. I'll take it off in good time.
Shame Sophia seems rather upset about her part in our fairy play. She complained about it, but I comforted her. Or rather, I tried to. But I think I made her feel insulted. I only told her to stop making such a fuss about it. Her feelings aren't that important. We could all find something to complain about, but we don't, because all we care about is getting the trophy for Avonlea. Ruby has lent me shoes that are too big, you know. I would never have imagined Ruby Gillis could have such a huge pair of feet. We tied velvet ribbons round them to stop them from falling off every time I walked. That was a pretty good idea. Diana thought of it.
Matthew didn't listen to any of this. He was brooding about what it could possibly be that set Anne apart from the other girls. But he just could not decide. After dinner, Matthew sat down and lit his favourite pipe. He hoped this would make it easier for him to think of the reason. What could it be that made Anne look different?
That's an expression of heartache, or it's supposed to be. Such terrible yelling, that's enough to send a pack of hungry wolves running, but she calls it art.
Oh, well.
What on earth's the matter with you?
What, did I do something wrong?
Fairies don't trample around like woodcutters.
Today is the birthday of the Queen of the Fairies. Therefore, a feast will be held at the palace.
That's what it is. Of course.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Never mind. It doesn't really matter. It wasn't important.
Having thought about the matter for a long time, Matthew finally realized it had something to do with Anne's dress. She wasn't dressed as prettily as the other girls.
The sleeves, that's it.
Although Matthew knew nothing about fashion, he suddenly realized that all Anne's dresses looked the same. They'd all been made on the same boring pattern. Worst of all, although he hadn't noticed it before, was the dull color of poor Anne's dresses. It dawned on Matthew that he'd never actually seen Anne in a pretty, colorful dress. A dress with puff sleeves.
Yes.
I don't understand you. It's as if you're not yourself today.
Really? Is that what it seems like?
It's as if you're sleeping with your eyes wide open and having conversations with yourself.
Well, it's nothing terribly important, Marilla, I assure you of that. I've been thinking about a little matter for a while, that's all. I think I'll go to bed now. But why? Why does Marilla let poor Anne walk around like a little grey mouse? Why can't she make her a pretty dress for a change? Oh, well, I suppose she knows better about those things. Anyway, I promised Marilla that I wouldn't interfere. And besides, bringing up little girls is best left to women. We could always make an exception, on the other hand.
Upon which the Fairy Queen approached.
The very next morning, while Marilla was busy in the hen house, Matthew quietly harnessed the horse and rode to Carmody. He wanted to buy Anne a new dress, so that she would look just as pretty as Diana and her friends. Matthew wanted the dress to be a surprise for Anne. He was sure it would be just the right Christmas present for her. Under normal circumstances, Matthew would have stopped in front of William Blair's shop. But this time he rode past because Mr. Blair's daughters served in his shop. And not knowing how to behave around women, Matthew felt quite incapable of discussing something like a dress with those two girls. Just thinking about it made him break out in a cold sweat. That's why Matthew had decided to go to Samuel Lawson's this time, because in his shop it was either Mr. Lawson himself who served or his son.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry if I kept you waiting. Good morning, Mr. Cuthbert. That is your name, not so? Tell me, what can I do for you?
Poor Matthew found himself in a sticky situation. How was he to know Samuel Lawson had asked his niece to help out in the shop before Christmas?
Well then, Mr. Cuthbert, is there anything I can do for you?
Do you have a... You don't happen to have a rake? Do you have a rake for me?
What? You want a rake? A rake in the middle of winter?
Yes, if you have one.
I think there might still be 2 of them left over from last summer, you know. Let me have a look in the storeroom. Excuse me for just a minute, please, Mr. Cuthbert. A rake in winter. You're in luck, Mr. Cuthbert.
What do you mean?
We only have 1 rake left, but you only wanted 1 anyway. It just means you don't have a choice. Well, there you are.
It doesn't matter.
Was there anything else you wanted?
Yes, I would like a... I mean, I'm afraid I won't be needing this rake after all.
Really?
I would rather have something else instead, if you happen to have any in stock. Although, if you don't have any of them in stock, I won't have any, of course.
Oh.
Have you got 3 bags of oatseed for me?
What? 3 bags of oatseed? What's going on, Mr. Cuthbert? Are you trying to make fun of me?
No, what makes you say that?
We obviously only stock seed in spring. Where are we supposed to get hold of it now? And what do you want me to do with it? It'll be Christmas soon.
I suppose I should have thought of that, yes. I must say it's a pity. I can't buy any articles that you don't have in stock.
Ah, Mr. Cuthbert, you haven't paid for the rake yet, and your hat's still lying on the counter.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. It must have slipped my mind. Maybe it's because it's so unbearably hot here in your store. Excuse me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cuthbert. Just a moment for your change, please. Is there anything else you've forgotten?
Yes, but only if it wouldn't be too much trouble for you. There's still one more thing I'd like to see. Something, I'm sure. It's that over there. Yes, that over there, miss. That's what I'd like to see. It's...
Oh, now I know what you mean. You want some of the brown sugar.
Huh? Yes, quite right. The brown sugar, that's what I mean.
I'm afraid, once more, it's the only sort I can offer you. How much should I measure out for you?
Well, I think 20 or 30 pounds would probably be more than enough.
The pretty saleslady in Mr. Lawson's shop had Matthew in a complete muddle. He'd gone to the shop because he wanted to buy a dress, but instead he left with 30 pounds of sugar and a rake. Matthew was fed up with himself, but he couldn't help it. Women just happened to make him nervous. As far as he was concerned, they were creatures to be avoided.
It's Matthew. I didn't even know he was going anywhere.
Matthew, what's going on?
What do you mean, what's going on? I went to Carmody. What's wrong with that?
And what's all this stuff?
What? Just a couple of things I bought.
And
what exactly did you buy, if I may ask?
A little bit of brown sugar in case you needed it.
You bought brown sugar? On top of it, you call this big bag a little bit? You know very well I don't even use brown sugar. Except now and then for rolled oats if I don't have time to cook supper. Or for blueberry pie, but the berry season is over and you know it. I haven't made any for ages. What on earth made you buy this sugar, Matthew? William Blair's is going downhill. This isn't what he usually sells. The sugar is much too coarse and too dark. Just look at it. Absolutely useless.
I'm sure the sugar will come in handy sooner or later. Anyway, it was on special.
No matter what he says, something's wrong here. I can feel it.
Marilla had no idea what Matthew's secret could be, but that he had one was quite obvious to her. Several times Matthew considered asking Marilla for advice, but he always gave up that idea very quickly. He knew Marilla far too well even to imagine she might understand his predicament. In the end, he turned to Mrs. Rachel Lynde for help. Mrs. Lynde listened carefully to Matthew's story. She was touched by Matthew's awkwardness, and she was more than willing to help him by taking the heavy burden off his shoulders.
I'll see to it. I know my way around a needle and cotton, so don't you worry.
Thank you.
I'll go to Carmody in the morning and start by choosing suitable material. Do you have anything specific in mind?
Well,
Oh, never you mind, I understand. How could anyone expect you to know about things like that? I'll find something.
Yes, please do that.
Let's see, what shall it be? A pretty warm brown might just be a good colour for Anne, and I seem to recall William Blair had some very nice new material in his shop. If you want, I could even make the dress for you too, Matthew. If you asked Marilla to make the dress for you, you'd never be able to keep it a secret from Anne, and that would spoil the surprise for her, which would really be such a shame. Besides, I'm good at dressmaking, as I told you, and I'd enjoy it. And for measurements, I could use my little niece, Jenny Gillis. She's just about the same size as Anne.
Could you? Oh, thank you. I really think that's decent of you. Although, there is one thing.
What?
I'm not sure what you call them, but I was thinking of a dress with, a dress with those new sleeves. Sleeves don't look the way they used to anymore. They're different these days.
Oh, Matthew Cuthbert, I'm surprised. I never knew you were interested in dresses.
Well, I'm not.
Don't worry, you can trust me. The dress will be made according to the latest fashion. I'll get a pattern specially for it.
You know, the sleeves are sort of, on top, though.
Never mind, I know. What you mean is a dress with puff sleeves. I'll take care of everything and make sure Anne gets a pretty dress. I've been meaning to talk to Marilla about it for a long time anyway. Anne's dresses look terrible on her. The colours don't suit her at all.
Yes.
We're going to make a pretty little girl out of her. And if Marilla tries to stop us, I'll give her what for.
Yes.
Somehow I'm looking forward to that.
Mrs. Lynde didn't waste any time. The very next morning, she rode to Carmody to choose material for Anne's dress from William Blair's shop. Mrs. Lynde rummaged through the shelves and inspected every single piece of material. Then she chose the brown material that she'd thought of originally and began sewing straight away. Anne didn't notice that Matthew had a secret. She was far too busy with the coming school concert. As before, she and her friends tried to learn to fly. Jenny Gillis had to act as a model for Rachel Lynde, who, because of the secret, made her promise to keep mum. A promise that Marilla would have loved to extract from Anne, too. Anne's heart-rending yelling tugged at her nerves, as did not knowing why Matthew was forever smiling to himself. It obviously had something to do with Christmas.
Matthew, it's finished.
Rachel, what are you doing here today?
Today? Oh, I'm delivering the dress that I made for Matthew.
What? You've got a dress? And it's for Matthew? Won't you come inside for a little while, Rachel?
Yes, Marilla, I'd love to come inside. It's meant to be a surprise for Anne. That's why Matthew asked if I could do it, because you wouldn't have been able to keep it a secret if you'd made it for her. I hope you like the colour. I think it'll go beautifully with Anne's hair.
So that's what all the fuss was about. That's why he's been avoiding me for weeks, grinning to himself and refusing to answer any of my questions. I might have known. Well, I suspected he was thinking up some other dumb idea again. Matthew's good at that. A new dress, what nonsense, what a waste. Anne doesn't need any new dresses. She's more than enough already.
But Marilla...
Why, only this autumn I made her 3 good, decent, warm new dresses that'll be more than enough to last her until next autumn. Anything more than that is just a waste. Speaking of which, look at these sleeves. You could have made a whole new blouse with the material.
Thank you, Rachel. It's very pretty. And you chose the material well.
Matthew Cuthbert, you're only encouraging Anne's opinion of herself, and she's already as vain as a peacock. You know how terribly it upsets me that she places so much importance on the way she looks.
But Marilla, the way you let Anne run around, no little girl
Maybe
dresses
not,
like
but
that
until
anymore.
now, Anne has never complained about her dresses. Well, that's over now, I suppose. She was already talking about a dress like this when she arrived here a year ago. I can't help it. I find these puff sleeves absolutely ridiculous. They get bigger and bigger by the year. Sooner or later, women will end up having to walk through the doors sideways. And no one could work in a dress like that anyway. Who knows where this will lead to? Am I supposed to send her to the hen house to gather eggs in a dress like that?
Oh, Marilla, aren't you perhaps taking it all a bit too seriously? Marilla, Anne's coming back.
What? Oh, yes, you're right. Matthew, get up out of that chair and go and hide the dress. Or do you want to spoil your surprise?
What, me? Well, no, of course
Come
not.
on then, hurry up.
Hello, Marilla.
Hello, child.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Lindy.
Good afternoon, Anne.
Wasn't Matthew still here before I came in?
Was he?
Do you know what? We had our last practice today. Miss Daisy was very happy with us.
As usual, the Cuthberts spent Christmas Eve in their kitchen. They hadn't done much to decorate the room, yet it seemed to be cozier than ever.
I practiced really hard and learnt all my lines off by heart, but I'm still scared of forgetting everything if I get too excited. Miss Daisy says we should try not to think about it too much tonight, but go to bed early and get a good night's sleep for tomorrow. When you've had enough sleep, you don't make so many mistakes, she says.
Anne followed Miss Stacy's advice. She went to bed early and fell asleep immediately. Matthew and Marilla sat together in silence a little longer, both absorbed in their own thoughts. Matthew was looking forward to the next day because then he could give Anne the dress.
I don't mean to be funny, but the smell from your pipe is getting bad. Won't you please open a window?
It's snowing.
What? Is it really? It definitely didn't look as if we were going to have a white Christmas.
You're quite right, it didn't.
Marilla was also looking forward to the next day, even if she wouldn't admit it, because Marilla was curious. She was itching to see what Anne would look like in her new dress. Marilla may have been a thoroughly practical person, but puff sleeves were puff sleeves, and even Marilla Cuthbert couldn't resist them. At last, Christmas Day dawned. Matthew could surprise Anne with a new dress, and Anne was very surprised. She wasn't sure if she was awake or dreaming, because Matthew's surprise wasn't the only one. There were others too, but more about that next time.
走っても終わらない花の波水には遠く燃える雲はもっと遠く